It's rude to point. Advice that my parents gave me that came back to me whilst I was watching the wrestling last night, along with other bits of sage parental guidance like don't interfere in other people's business and never return to a lit flame. Let's talk about it. This is opening match is Bobby Lashley versus Sheamus, a close quarters beefy boy battle that sees the Hurt Business getting involved, much to the chagrin of MVP and Bobby Lashley. They turn up to run interference. The first time they try it, it nearly costs Bobby the match. The second time, the distraction of Sheamus is going for a brogue kick allows Bobby to hit a spine buster instead and put on the Hurt Lock for the win. Post-match, Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander are beating down on Sheamus, and Drew McIntyre bombs out to make the save, battering the Hurt Business and then squaring up to Bobby Lashley, begging him to take the first punch so they can get into it. MVP manages to get Bobby Lashley away from the situation, and Drew stands alone in the ring. Giving it a B-. This was a basic but engaging big boy bout to start the match. I think Drew coming out there to, he doesn't like Sheamus, but coming out to show the respect to stop him from getting a beat down from the Hurt Business was a nice little touch as well. And I like the showdown between Drew and Lashley on the road to Mania. Backstage, Lashley and MVP are scolding Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. They didn't ask them to be out there during that match, and they nearly cost Bobby the match. Also made him look bad by being out there at all. MVP tells them to think about what they're going to do to make it right. We'll get to that in a little bit. Next up, Asuka in action against Peyton Royce. We heard Peyton Royce's comments on Raw Talk just the other week where she demanded Asuka and just wants a chance to show that she can go, and she really does here. This is a great showing from Peyton Royce, who really goes pace for pace and move for move with Asuka throughout this. She counters the hip attack, she counters a missile dropkick, she even manages to avoid an Asuka lock on the first occasion as well. Gets some really close near falls in on Asuka, and you can see the frustration rising in her as this wears on. It only takes one mistake though, as Peyton Royce is fighting on the one side of the ring. Asuka manages to get in an armbar. As Peyton Royce is trying to get out of it, Asuka manages to return the favour and turn it into an Asuka lock for the tap-out win. Following this, Rhea Ripley storms to the ring. She reveals that Charlotte Flair, as she put on Twitter last night, is out of action at the moment following COVID diagnosis. She's recovering from COVID, and it looks as if she's out of the picture for WrestleMania. So here's Rhea Ripley stepping into the position to challenge Asuka to a match at Mania. Asuka says, "You're not ready for Asuka, but I accept." And we have ourselves Rhea Ripley versus Asuka at WrestleMania, giving this all a B+. Great showing by Peyton Royce here, who said the other week, just let me go, let me do something. And lo and behold, she really held her own in there against Asuka. I think it was one of her finer performances to date. Really liked it a lot. Great to see this intense side of Asuka back as well. And Ripley and Asuka at WrestleMania. I'm good with that. We nearly got Asuka and Charlotte. This I prefer. Backstage, Adam Pearce and Drew McIntyre having a chat. Looks like the Hurt Business want Drew, so we're getting a handicap match between Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin versus Drew McIntyre. Drew adds a caveat. If he can beat them both tonight, they are barred from the ring at WrestleMania. Deal all round. See you later on. A WrestleMania special Miz TV is offered next. Miz and Morrison are livid that they have been left off the WrestleMania poster, but Bad Bunny is on it. They also give a preview of what we're going to see next week. It's a Bad Bunny diss track, which features Miz and Morrison dressed as White Rabbits, hopping around the Thunderdome. I'm going to park that for next week. Let's park that for next week. I'm sure Ross will have something to say on it on WTF Moments as well. Oh, sorry, Ross should have something to say on it on... There you go. So Miz then throws down the challenge to Bad Bunny to go one-on-one at WrestleMania, promising to end his career. He tells Bad Bunny to watch what he does to Jeff Hardy next. And we have ourselves a match between Jeff Hardy and The Miz. Jeff asks Miz to send Morrison to the back before the match starts to prove that he can beat him one-on-one. They have a fairly decent back-and-forth match. Ends with Jeff going for the twist of fate. Miz counters it by hurling him into the post and then hitting a skull-crushing finale for the three. Fairly simple, fairly straightforward. Post-match, kabong! There's Bad Bunny. He's got a guitar and he smacks it over the back of the head of The Miz. He then runs up the ramp and accepts the challenge from Miz for WrestleMania. Bad Bunny is going to Mania. C+ for all of this. Miz TV was what it was. The preview of the diss track, we're going to wait till next week. We'll talk about that next week. The match between Jeff and The Miz, shame to see Jeff in a role where it was quite throwaway here. You could have kind of put anybody in that position, and shame to see him lose relatively cleanly to The Miz, but then I guess there's no real role for him going into WrestleMania at the moment, so it is what it is. Bad Bunny and Miz is happening at Mania. Not as we thought. I guess we all thought we'd get a tag match. The one-on-one is an interesting development, but no doubt it'll be full of shenanigans. AJ Styles and Omos out next. AJ is buzzing to be tagging with his bestie Omos at WrestleMania. Omos' first ever match. They're interrupted by The New Day, their opponents at WrestleMania, and they're trying to plant some seeds of doubt in Omos' head, questioning the true friendship of AJ Styles towards Omos. AJ's unable to name Omos' favourite colour, ice cream flavour, or wrestler, which, by the way, is mauve, peanut butter and caramel, and Andre the Giant. In that order. Nobody likes Andre the Giant flavoured ice cream. This leads to AJ and Kofi Kingston going one-on-one next. These guys have a decent back and forth. Quite late into the match, we see Styles counter a Trouble in Paradise with an Inzaguri kick that's worth multiple replays because it looks like Kofi gets banged right on the head. Look really good. As we see, just at the end, AJ going for the phenomenal forearm. As he does, there's Xavier Woods to distract him. Omos starts stalking Woods, and as he's doing that, Styles goes for the phenomenal forearm, but Kofi's had time to recover and counters it into an SOS for the 1-2-3. Kofi's pinned AJ Styles. See you all at Wrestling Mania. This was a B-. I love the back and forth stuff with AJ Styles, Omos, and The New Day. I feel like Omos is becoming this sort of lovable giant within WWE. And you know what? Two former champs had themselves a pretty good match. They didn't go all out here, but it was entertaining. Backstage, Sheamus addresses Drew McIntyre coming to his rescue earlier on, saying it's all about respect. Even though he still hates the ground he walks on, there's respect there. Interrupted by Riddle on his scooter going round and round him, asking if he's ever seen the Loch Ness Monster or if leprechauns are real. Just being annoying. Sheamus stops him, asks for a go on his scooter, and then jabs him in the guts with the scooter itself. Riddle on the floor going, was it something I said? It's funny because he's stoned. Riddle and Sheamus probably WrestleMania for the US title. To be honest, the only other title hunt, if it's not going to be the main titles, the only other title hunt I really want to see Sheamus in is for the Intercontinental title. It's the only belt he hasn't won. But then Big E and Sheamus could be a thing at Mania, maybe. I think we're doing more stuff with Apollo on SmackDown. We'll let Sam talk about that on SmackDown Graded on Saturday. We'll let Sam talk about that on... Iron Drew takes on the Hurt Business next and batters them for a very long time. It isn't until Cedric hits a chop block and they throw Drew into the side of the barricade that the Hurt Business even get a look in here. However, it's not forever because we eventually see a Glasgow kiss turn the tide. Drew runs wild on both of them. 2 claymores, 1, 2, 3, and pinning Cedric Alexander to win the match. Drew McIntyre has officially banned the Hurt Business from ringside. This was a C+, decent enough, not exceptional. Another dominant win for Drew going into Mania. I am nervous about them making Drew look too dominant going into Mania. We've seen this happen many times over the years with your John Cena's and your Roman Reigns's and such. I'm nervous about them making them too dominant. I don't want people to turn on Drew before we even get to Mania. Backstage, the Hurt Business, Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin getting chewed out by MVP and Lashley. They're just not happy campers. And Lashley says, you can't get the job done, so we're going to get someone else to. Lashley then asks an assembled group of randomers. Ricochet's in amongst it as well. There's Drew Gulak, there's Akira Tozawa, Lucha House Party in there as well. And Lashley says, if anybody can take out Drew McIntyre, he'll give them a shot at the WWE title. Akira Tozawa for WWE Champ. Come on! Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke taking on Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. Next, we get a recap from SmackDown of Nia Jax's shopping spree with Reginald. There is chemistry there, apparently. Dandy look fine here. We've got Lana and Naomi ringside doing commentary for this one. At one point during the match, we see Reginald get chased into the ring. He then does a flip to impress Nia Jax, and this leads to Dandy getting an advantage very briefly. But the Reginald interference, once again, a bit later on, saves the day. Causes a distraction that allows Dana Brooke to eat a Samoan drop from Jax for the 1-2-3. C-, it was what it was. Reginald was quite entertaining. What an odd group. Reginald, Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. It's got a right island of misfit toys about it. I'm not massively against it. Nia Jax and Reginald might be interesting. Maybe. Alexa Bliss warns Randy Orton to be careful what you wish for.
I can't find Be Careful What You Wish For by Swans Randy Orton in your music library.
It's alright, it doesn't involve swans anyway. Randy Orton is summoning the Fiend later on. Next, Elias and Braun Strowman in a rematch from Fastlane. Shane McMahon and Elias debut their new song, Braun is Stupid. It's great, it's really subtle. It's got these really very delicate undertones which hint that Braun Strowman might not be that intelligent. We have Strowman out to the ring to fight. He says Shane's going to get beaten up at some point. He promises to play a tune to Elias called The Man Who Got These Hands. This is pretty much a rinse and repeat from Fastlane with one almighty exception. As Braun Strowman, you know the Strowman thing he does where he runs around the ring and crashes into people like a train? They've decided to add a train sound effect while he does it. He does the woo woo, and it's as he's going around the ring. All right, I mean, we watched a man come back from being burned alive 24 hours ago. I can't say that having the sound of a train over a tannoy massively suspends my disbelief. It's a worry when WWE are doing bits that they were doing during the lesser-known New Generation era. Remember when Doink the Clown used to come off the top rope with the whoopee cushion and they make the sound effect as he came down? That's where we're at now. Braun beats Elias. Post-match, Shane tries to attack Braun with his crutch. It doesn't work, zero effective. Shane legs it up the ramp and Braun goes, hey, your leg's fine. How about we have a match? I want you at WrestleMania. Points at the sign. There you go. D, don't want this. Don't want this. Don't want this at Mania. I'm getting all my nightmares come true. I don't want this at WrestleMania. This match was what it was, but I don't want this at WrestleMania. Train noises. Randy Orton is out for the final segment of the night to summon the Fiend. He's carrying a black sack with him to the ring, and he addresses the abomination that we saw last night. He's here to finish the job. This brings out Alexa Bliss with the Jack in the Box, who says, okay, if that's what you want, here he comes. And then she does the pop, and little Fiend Jack in the Box, which is cute. And then the lights go out. Lights come back up, all bathed in red. There's the Fiend. Crispy fried Fiend stood behind Randy Orton. He stands perfectly still as Randy Orton opens up the black sack, reveals a big old litre of lighter fluid, of gasoline. That's the one I was reaching for. He starts throwing it on the Fiend, who just stands there, covers him in gasoline, grabs a match, Looks like he's going to light the match, and instead, boom, drops him with an RKO. Bliss comes in to distract Orton. This allows Fiend time to recover, get to his feet, get the mandible claw to Orton, drop him with a Sister Abigail, and then Alexa Bliss points at the sign as flames shoot up. It's going to be Fiend and Orton at WrestleMania. They have the match graphic and everything. Fair play to the Fiend, who had time to pose for a match graphic. That's well organised. Oh, look, I love this. I'm giving it a B+. I don't think it was as impactful as what we had last night. I still think there were some good elements here. I liked it. And I know this will be a divisive thing between wrestling fans. Some people think it's a lot of silly nonsense, and that's fine. This is just my opinion. You don't have to agree. And that's the joy of things, is you don't have to agree all the time. I like it, personally. I think it's a lot of silliness. For me, wrestling's always better when it's a little bit silly. Isn't it? It really is. Especially now when the world's on fire. Let's talk about an undead burnt monster from the deep fighting Randy Orton at WrestleMania. Let's talk about that instead. And posing for a match graphic beforehand, whilst the man runs around with traintracks.mp3. Overall this week, I'm actually going to give Raw a C+. It's certainly on the bounce back from where we've been in recent weeks on Monday Night Raw. The one thing we could probably do less of is just pointing at the WrestleMania sign. All that stuff wears very, very thin. Highlights for me included Rhea Ripley going to WrestleMania. That was nice stuff. I thought best match of the night, it was pretty slim pickings on that front. I think Kofi and AJ had a good one, but really didn't get out of third gear. But what they did, I thought they did well. So maybe that. I don't want Shayna and Braun at WrestleMania, but we're getting it, so I'm just going to keep downgrading it. Unless they do something amazing. I don't know. I doubt they will, though. So we're on the road to WrestleMania. Happy days. I'm sure Ross will have plenty more to say about some of the silliness from tonight on WTF Moments later on today. Stay safe. Love you. Bye.